Welcome, ladies and gentle thems. My name is V, and I'll be your host this morning. I will guide you through my transdisciplinary thesis, Playhouse, which focuses on themes of queer pleasure, identity, and connection. These concepts are investigated through the lens of fun and play in order to create a safe and engaging space. Queer pleasure is the pride and joy derived from celebrating one's LGBTQ QIP 2SAA plus identity, and or what society deems odd or weird. It is important to note that the term queer, according to most contemporary dictionaries, primarily means odd, weird, strange, or funny. And while these dictionaries do offer an alternative definition of queer as a derogatory term towards the LGBTQ plus community, they often neglect to mention the reclamation of the word. This reclamation is important to acknowledge as it is the foundation to my research on celebrating queer identity. Queer pleasure is the antithesis to queer pain. This pain occurs when society creates an idealized standard normie. Cognitive dissonance, as well as societal pressures to conform, eventually manifests as shame, anxiety, and depression. Through funny and pleasureful art, I express my own queer pleasures and pains. My aesthetic sensibilities to fun and play are colorful, campy, maximalist, de-skilled or bad, dada, and pop art. Holliday Home Glitch of the Heart is the first iteration of Playhouse. Here, I use elements of fun and play in a very precious and calculated way. The colorful, campy, maximalist, de-skilled or bad, dada, pop art aesthetic is made untouchable, framed, and distant. I think this is because I was dealing with queer shame in this work, as well as a romantic longing that has a sort of distance to it. It was noted that while this work has depictions of fun and play, it wasn't very funny or pleasureful to interact with, so I kept that in mind with future Playhouse projects. MySpace.jpg is the second iteration of Playhouse. This time, the liminal space exists online as a collage and hyperlink poem. This work is more funny and pleasureful for the audience to interact with, so I felt there was an improvement in that sense. The queer pain that manifests in this space is anxiety. Anxiety is amplified by the fact that these gallery lights that double as cameras point inside of a room that embodies my identity and my art. It's as if the external world is watching me in my most private space. This queer anxiety originates from this feeling of being othered and visually marked as different, especially in spaces like public restrooms. That's why in this image the red door which leads to a bathroom functions as a sort of warning. However, this place is also riddled with queer pleasures in terms of both content and aesthetics. The lioness on the back wall is a non-binary goddess that watches over the place and gives me strength. While I love many aspects of this work, I knew that I wanted the next iteration of Playhouse to be a physical space because the body is essential in experiencing queer pleasure and fun and play. So I started sketching out Playroom and collecting various materials to create a physical installation. My goal was to make a queer, cozy, inviting, and engaging hangout that combats depression. When designing Playroom, I had a particular interest in revisiting my childhood bedroom as the ultimate space of safety, comfort, and infinite possibility. I was also thinking a lot about how many queer kids are struggling through COVID-19 because they don't have a space to escape to that celebrates their identity. Statistics and anecdotal evidence from close friends suggest that many households don't use kids' chosen names or pronouns, and it creates a hostile environment where they don't feel safe or accepted. I wanted to make this space for them in particular. Here is the entrance to Playroom, the final iteration of Playhouse at Emily Carr University. It is located in the same space as Holliday Home, but this space has been transformed. The walls have been painted lychee pink, red curtains provide semi-privacy, and on the back wall a large photograph of my partner Bonnie and me hangs with twinkling lights. For me, this image is central to the theme of queer pleasure in the work. It is a celebration not only of our love, but also of our individual selves. I see this image as a beacon of hope for everyone who thinks they won't find love because people have told them they aren't worthy of love. Maybe they were told they are too hairy, too skinny, too fat, too lesbian, too trans, too fluid, too whatever. Maybe someone will see themselves in this image and know those things aren't true, and that love is for everyone just the way they are. Playroom is abundant in content and material. Each element serves the whole installation in creating a unified experience of fun and play, with queer content seamlessly embedded in the work. Self-care, nostalgia, and comfort induce pleasure in my participants and myself. There is also an element of humor in the work, a sort of fun, making fun of or queering expectations of art. Here, the consumable art is a nod to artists like Mauricio Catalan, Andy Warhol, Felix Gonzalez Torres, and our own De Pauli. Funny and pleasureful art objects litter the floor and walls of Playroom. There is this balance between softness, humor, and sexuality that I aim for to enable safe and approachable discussions around gender identity, sexual orientation, mental health, and art. Many artworks in this space I made during pivotal moments in my personal and professional history. Behind the blow-up bed, my 2017 piece Serpentine Skin hangs. My face and the words "Hello Bianca" are repeated on dirty, colorful rags. When making this piece, I identified as a trans man and had legally changed my name to Vincent Chorbick, but was still receiving mail and other things with the name Bianca. At the time, this piece was my way of shedding that identity and coming into my new form. But now, as a non-binary person with a complex relationship to gender and identity, this piece is also celebratory. I feel that I possess both Bianca and Vincent equally, and not at all, at the same time. In addition to Playroom, I also designed Drawing Room, which is an adjacent installation that encourages participants to draw what makes them happy. While it is a very straightforward concept, it generates a lot of engagement and made a good transition into Playroom, which was tucked behind the open drawing room walls. After completing my MFA, I plan to start a program called Northern Rainbow, where I, and maybe others, visit northern BC communities like my hometown Dawson Creek to bring queer pleasure to the families there, with a particular focus on queer youth who struggle the most. My goal is to finally catch up on that sweet, sweet vitamin D and those Z's. Also, I will continue to work on iterations of Playhouse post MFA, taking everything I've learned from Holliday Home, MySpace.jpg, Playroom, and Drawing Room into my future work. Thank you for listening to my presentation. XOXOV.